Welcome back, friends, to the Holistic Ease vlog and podcast. Today's episode is all about holistic tools that I have been using to deal with anxiety while I go through a medical crisis. So if you're wondering what I'm talking about, go back and listen to episode 61, which talks about how to deal with anxiety in a medical crisis, but it's more about the story of what's been going on, and then also the very, very high importance of having very firm and very healthy boundaries when you are going through any kind of a medical crisis or really any kind of crisis period in your life. But today I wanted to bring in a little bit more of the holistic side of things, because that's what we talk about a lot here on this podcast, is different holistic helps that can make life easier. And man, if there isn't a time where a person needs life to be a little bit easier, it's when you're walking through the fire, when you are in the crisis, when you're in the crucible. So today I'm going to share with you some of my favorite things that have been getting me through a really, really rough season. And when I say that these are my favorite things, these are things that have helped me to keep taking the next breath and the next breath and the next breath in certain moments, or to do the next right thing that I knew to do, and then the next right thing that I knew to do, even though I was exhausted. These things helped to fortify me, they helped to strengthen me, they helped to ground me, they helped me to deal with my anxiety in a healthy way. And here's the really tough thing. So in the season that I've been walking through, I have had a bodily injury. It has been to my thumb. It has been quite severe. In fact, I was told at the end of all of this that I was not that far away from losing my thumb, because the infection had gotten so out of control despite all of the best efforts that were made. So again, I share that not because I want to hear your horror stories. Please don't share them with me, and I don't need to be asked a million questions about it. But I'm telling you that because I want you to know that this actually has limited me from doing most of the things that I would typically do for stress relief. I have not been able to go to yoga. This is horrible. Yoga keeps me sane. I have not been able to work out. Not good. I haven't been able to blow off steam. I have not been able to garden and to get my hands into the dirt. These are like the three main things that I do to cope with my anxiety. And I also haven't been able to do like normal everyday life, like take care of my basic needs kind of things. Like I couldn't cut with a knife or a scissor, and it's been very limiting. Okay. It's been very limiting. And so I have had to dig much deeper than I typically would into my holistic tool bag to find some other things to really help me. And so here are some of the things that I have been using. Number one thing, 100% free. You just have to have the physical ability to do it, which if you're going through a medical crisis, you might not be able to, but I have a hack for you. And that is to literally go and sit on the ground. This seems like it won't do anything, but I promise you, give it a chance. So I have to do IV infusions every afternoon for the foreseeable future to get my body fully over this infection that I've been dealing with. And it's going very, very well. But during the initial phase of that, I was very anxious. I was like, oh my gosh, what if my body reacts to this? This or that. And so during my infusion, the only thing that my instincts, again, getting back to our instincts being so critical to our health and to our well-being, the only thing that my instincts were just crying out for was to get outside and to sit on the ground. And so I would do that during my infusions, and I would start out being extremely anxious, extremely panicky, like highly, highly unsettled. I would even go so far as to say it was pretty neurotic at this point. I'm sure my mother will agree with this part of the podcast because she's been dealing with me. And once your anxiety gets over a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, there is no amount of telling yourself to not be anxious that is going to be helpful. Because at this point, your cortisol and your adrenaline are too high, your brain is in too much of an amygdala hijack. And to try to tell yourself to stop being anxious is only going to make you more anxious. Hint to those of you that have anxious people in your life, When you tell them not to be anxious, it's not helpful. They already don't want to be anxious. They're already trying not to be anxious. So the best thing that you can do for an anxious person is ask them, how are you feeling in your body? Do you want to talk about it? That is what you can do for them. So what I noticed as I was spending more and more time in direct contact with the earth is that it's just like an electrical grounding. And if we look at the theories of traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda that I talk about so much, even if you just have a sense of yourself when you're highly stressed or highly anxious, very often we feel like our energy is floating way above here, like we're out of body. We often talk about feeling out of body, like having anxious out of body feelings. It's like you can't fully feel into your current reality, right? So as I sit on the ground, I feel like all of those anxious thoughts just start to actually get grounded. And it doesn't make everything go away. It's not like a miracle cure, but it is like a tonic. It's like something that you do it enough over time and you're like, yeah, this actually really is making a difference. So I couldn't go to yoga. I couldn't go for, a Peloton ride. I couldn't do any of those things I normally do, but I could go sit on the ground. And so I would go sit on the ground for an hour. And it was amazing how my mindset would shift during that hour just from being in direct contact with the earth. Now, those of you who are in a medical crisis may be in a situation where you cannot get outside or where you are unable to get in direct contact with the earth. Here are my hacks for you. These are hematite bracelets. You can find these at any rock store. I'm sure you can get them on Amazon. Hematite is really heavy. It's a very dense mineral. So it makes this fun kind of ASMR sound, which is cool. And I put these on my wrists. I've also put them on my feet before, on my feet, but around my ankles. When I feel like I'm floating outside of myself, when I feel like I'm not grounded into my body, when I feel like I've lost touch with that third chakra, the solar plexus chakra, where our healthy confidence comes from, and I know I need to get grounded back into my root. Even the sensation of this rock in my hand, the weight of it, the heft of it, to me helps me to feel grounded. And it's tremendously, tremendously effective. Another one that I really like to use during anxious times, and actually anytime I have physical pain, is selenite. So selenite is very inexpensive. You can get it at any rock store. You can get it in many sizes, shapes, sometimes even carved into different things. I just like the selenite rods, and this I will actually put down the middle of my body, and I feel that it soaks up negative energy, and I actually find it to be an incredibly effective natural pain reliever. Like, it's not, like morphine or anything, but it does really help to take the edge off of things. At least that's my experience. And so this is how we can bring that earth element in when we're feeling anxious, okay? Some other things that are like this, but on steroids, are the Vibes Up products. So Vibes Up is a company that has developed this really interesting material, and those of you that are watching on the vlog are going to be able to see this, but those of you listening onto the podcast, I'm holding it's kind of a pyramid shaped piece of fabric. It's actually a lap desk, and the top of it is lined with this, I don't know, it's like a polymer or a resin that's made of crystals, essential oils, flower essences, and it does generate an electrical field, and there's actually been some independent research done on it. Sounds like woo-woo. I used to think this stuff was woo-woo until I really needed it, and I found out how much it really will minister to you when you really need this type of help. So this Vibes Up, you can get it in a lot of different forms. You can get like pillows, you can get yoga mats, you can get sandals. I like this lap desk because it's protective against EMF. But when I am not feeling well, when I'm feeling ungrounded, I will get as much of this in contact with my skin as I possibly can. And I swear it just sucks up the negative energy. I swear it does. And I don't care if it's placebo. I don't care at all because it's not hurting me in any way. And I think it can only help. They also have different wristbands that are basically imprinted with different messages. So this one is for liver love. And if you're going through anxiety, if you're going through an anxious time, you are probably dealing with an excess amount of adrenaline and cortisol in your system. That has to all be eliminated, and it can be really hard on your organs of elimination. So for me, during a stressful time, I always try to make sure that I'm supporting my liver, giving it a little extra boost, a little extra love. And so I've been using this bracelet as well from Vibes Up, and I do really feel that it helps not just with my liver, but also just with giving me a better sense of well-being. So that is earth element and how to bring in a little bit of energy medicine for yourself. And I'm keeping this really simple because honestly, when you're going through a medical crisis, the last thing that you can think about is like one more thing that you have to figure out or that is going to be complex, right? So no complexity here. This is about making a holistic lifestyle easy. So the next couple of things that I'm going to show you are things that I think are super easy, but that I truly refuse to live without. And that is a couple of different herbal helps. So the first thing that I'm going to talk to you about is adaptogenic herbs. And this is an adaptogenic tonic that I've been using for 6 years. I would give up many, many things in my life before I would give this up. Now, I made sure that I got permission from all of my doctors, attending physicians, that it's okay for me to do herbal support, vitamin support, mineral support, because sometimes those things can interact with medications and procedures. And so you always, always, always want to make sure that you get anything that you want to use checked with your physician, because the last thing you need is like complications or to be getting in your own way. Luckily, I got permission. So this is really cool. I was able to continue to do the things I knew I needed to do to support my body. So right away, I made sure that I was doing a lot of alterative herbs. Alterative herbs are herbs that help to support the liver and the kidneys, because I knew that my kidneys and my liver were going to be needing to eliminate all the different drugs and antibiotics and things that have been in my system. So I'm drinking nettle tea, I'm doing Oregon grape root tincture. Gosh, there's a lot of different things that I do with alternatives. But to manage my stress level, to manage my anxious thoughts, racing thoughts, circular thinking, more than that, like how those things make my body feel, I use my cognitive behavioral techniques as I described in the previous episode, but then I also support a healthier stress response by giving my body adaptogenic herbs. Adaptogenic herbs are a class of herbs. They're very special. They live in the harshest conditions on the planet, and so they develop extra medicine within them to be able to survive those harsh conditions. And in our bodies, they help our bodies to adapt to stress and changing conditions as well. And when you're in a medical crisis, you might be in a changing condition every 5 minutes. So if you have permission to use the adaptogens, they can really, really help to support your body. These I throw in a shake in the morning just because it's quick and easy, and it's something that I could make even without having a working thumb. And then in the afternoon, I actually like to mix it up, and actually what I do with that is I add a little bit of this. It's funny, it's actually a post-workout repair product, but it has turmeric and some other herbs in it that are known to be very anti-inflammatory, and it has collagen to help with healing, which in my case, I have an injury, a bone removal that has to heal. So this has been really wonderful, and it tastes really good too. So this is what I enjoy in the afternoons, and I really feel like it strengthens and fortifies my system. And if I'm feeling run down, if I'm having a more anxious day, because some days are just more anxious days than others, this is something I really do try to make sure that I get a couple of doses of throughout the day, because I feel like it just reminds my body, oh yeah, we can relax a little bit more. It's okay. So it doesn't mean I stop doing my techniques, and it doesn't mean I don't do the medical things, but this helps my body go through that process easier and come out on the other side a little bit more whole. Love, love, love these products, and I will put links in the show notes to all of this stuff. So then the other herb thing that is so easy to do and is absolutely non-negotiable, and for me this is whether I am in a medical crisis or not, but I've actually increased it during this medical crisis, is to use an herbal product for sleep support. So this has a very, very small amount of melatonin and then some beautiful herbs that help with sleep. So there's tart cherry, chamomile, lemon balm, valerian, all herbs that I would use in even like a tea for sleep, but then I don't have to make a tea. And then it also has L-theanine, which is a component that will help the brain to be nourished so that it can go into that rest and digest phase. And all it is a sublingual spray. You spray 2 or 3 sprays under there about a half hour before you want to go to bed. And I've been tracking it for years on a sleep app. My sleep is much deeper, much more restorative, and my sleep scores are much better when I use this product. And when you're in a medical crisis, one of the first things to go is usually your quality of sleep, and that sucks because sleep is the thing that you need the most. And when you're anxious and you have very high cortisol and adrenaline, the thing that I have found to be ultimately the most healing for that is to actually add in a few more hours of sleep to the night. While that can be hard if you're a person that's not used to sleeping that much, so if you can use a sleep spray, it often can allow your body and your brain to just let go a little bit more so that you can allow yourself that extra rest that your body is really needing and really craving during that time. So those are the herbal helps that I've been using. And again, keep in the theme of keeping this very simple, very straightforward. I could give you a recipe for an essential oil blend that would have 4 or 5 different essential oils in it that would be great for dealing with anxiety and help you with sleep and blah, blah, blah. But honestly, when I was going through this, I did not have the mental space to process that. All I knew is that I had one essential oil at my disposal that would help me feel less stressed and help my sleep, and that is our friend Lavender. Keep it simple when you're going through a crisis. Just keep it simple. And if you have permission to use the aromatherapy, you know there's not going to be any issue with it. Pre-surgery, driving 2 hours to the surgeon. This was me in the car. Every few minutes, sniffing out of the bottle, calming my body down, grounding my body. This is a beautiful scent that I love, that I have good feelings about. If you don't love lavender, then find a scent that you love that gives you good feelings, that gives you relaxed feelings, and use that. Just make sure it's natural. So I was doing that pre-surgery. I've done it before doctor's appointments that I've been anxious about, just to calm my body down. The biggest thing, the easiest thing that I do, and it's like don't tell other aromatherapists that I do this because, I'm not doing a diffuser and setting things up. I did not have the mental space for that. I did not have 2 working thumbs, so working a diffuser was not even something that was possible for me. So before I would go to bed, I would just literally toss a few drops of this around the room that my husband and I were sleeping in, and good enough, and it would help me to fall asleep even better, give me beautiful sleep. I would wake up rested and felt restored and felt nurtured and cared for, which is one of the things that I think lavender is really great for, is that everybody's like, oh, it's so relaxing and it's so sleep, it's really good for sleep. It's really good for stress. But the reason that it's really good for stress is that it's a flower. And our flowers, they have a lot of that feminine energy. They have a lot of that nurturing and mothering energy in them. And when you're going through a medical crisis, sometimes that's just what you want. It's just what you need. So this is a really easy way to access that. So those are some of my best tips, my best tools for dealing with anxiety and stress when you're going through a medical crisis. These are simple things to do. Anybody can do these as long as you have permission from your doctor. And again, I'll be putting in the show notes links for all of these things so you can look them up and check them out yourself. If you have any questions, go ahead and private message me. But otherwise, I hope if you're going through a medical crisis that you're finding your own ways of moving through it with healthy boundaries, with allowing yourself the time that you truly need for self-care and healing, and giving yourself a little bit, taking a little bit of the edge off for yourself with some of these holistic helps that we have. This is why these things are here, right? These things are not going to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease, but they will support our bodies as we move from a disease state into a more healthful state. And that makes the healing process easier. And who doesn't need and want that? I know I do. So that's all I have for now. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I always appreciate those 5-star reviews. Please go ahead and share this on your platforms if you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.